So, good afternoon. Today, we're going to look at systems admin for super users, part one. Obviously, during the rest of the course, we have looked at quite a lot of different subjects, and there are prerequisites for being a super user, really. We assume that a super user has used the system and has a fair amount of expertise in how it works and would probably understand how the talent management team hire, how the booking team work, how the finance team approve payroll, and would be responsible to the board of the company for handing out those authorities and granting and revoking authorities. I think the first thing to say about today's workshop is I want to keep these things to under half an hour, and so I'm going to zip through user admin quite quickly, but point you in the direction of the help text so that you understand how it works. And of course, call support, because how user admin works in your company may be different to other companies, given that you will know how your teams work and what groups of people are allowed what rights. And that's a very important role of the super user. So lookups admin and drop downs admin, we're going to just skim over today, and we'll do a little bit more because they come up in virtually everything we do. So for example, in drop downs admin, we've already looked at the drop downs for example, nominal codes and expenses admin, and we're going to be doing them next Wednesday anyway. We've obviously looked at reports admin in great detail, so we're not going to be doing that during this particular day today. And then also in lookups admin, there's just a few things that I want to add to what you already know about lookups, which is how to place them on different tabs, how to add them, and what happens when you do add them. And that may just leak a little bit into tomorrow. So why have a super user at all? What's so important about super users? Well, they're absolutely critical to any business, and any business. Some of you are very small businesses, some of you are very large businesses, but it's obviously absolutely essential that you have somebody who understands how the system works and knows when we've done something wrong or when a user has done something wrong, and really understands the business very thoroughly. And I think the first priority is the person has got to be responsible to the board. They probably would be a board member as well. They're trusted because obviously you're doing work with GDPR, privacy, fraud. If you change something on the system, you have to make sure it complies, for example, with your legal contracts. If you change your application form or you change a link on the application form, it's got to go to your up-to-date privacy contract and not your employment contract. Your employment contract should be applied somewhere else. And often we will have somebody who says, oh, great, I'm going to fill this application form, and they're all happy. And we say, right, where's your privacy contract? And they have no idea. Or the company doesn't have a privacy contract. So the super users really got to understand those things to be able to protect their company from the risks that are around through compliance and obviously financial fraud these days. They must have business knowledge. They must know what the clients want, what the staff want, what their sales team want for their clients. They must understand the processes so that they can change options and vocabulary to reduce training for new people that arrive, and to be able to thoroughly understand what is going to help the business go forward and what's not. And many of you on the call now are very, very good at that, and do this kind of this other thing, which is kicking accelerate and saying, hey, we need this new enhancement, or we'd like it to work this way. I think it's just really important to have a systems understanding. I see technical knowledge as a bit of a bonus. Somebody who can understand why an email didn't get through, or something about a particular way that a text behaved or something like that is fantastic. But normally we can do that in tech support here. I don't see this as a technical job. I see this as somebody who really has business knowledge and understands how your business works, but is clearly a numerate manager. So what are your responsibilities of a super user? We're going to be going into the first one today, which is staff authorities. Clearly, if you give the wrong people the wrong authorities, you're putting your company at risk. And if you don't give them enough authority, they can't do their job. So that's always an interesting conversation with super users. One thing that people forget a lot is to actually take people off the system when they leave. And the number of times that we see people who have left a year ago, when we go into support and help somebody with a user management issue, and we find 5 or 6 people that have left the company. And this is not just some sort of bad behavior or laziness on behalf of the company. It's just that we've been through quite a revolution economically with the pandemic, and a lot of companies have had to change their teams. So we understand why it's happened, but obviously those things need to be cleared up, and it's the super user's responsibility to the board of their company to do that. There's also internal support. The super users, and in the contract we say you must have 2 super users, should be able to triage user feedback and problems and say, well, that's just because you did something silly. But most importantly, they should be able to, and I've put down supplier management, but you should really kick us if it turns out to be a bug, if it turns out that we could enhance the system and it could help you. And then when we do work for you, we would expect the super users to be the people, once we've tested it thoroughly, to then test it for us. And there are some people on the call who are very, very good at this and spend a lot of time doing this. And we really appreciate it. We really appreciate that feedback. I think the key word here is evolve the system, because your business will be changing. So sometimes you can just change a label or change a drop-down menu and you've got a whole new process to make the business more efficient. Sometimes it's building a report, which saves somebody hours of work. But that's what I see the super user as doing. So whether you look at the business overview or the journey of an applicant through to being a staff member and the management of the app, the super user has the power to change literally thousands of options, which will make your company more efficient and will make people, so that people can, find the app easier to use and so on. Because remember, there's a huge number of functions that are available on the app now. Just as an example, turning to lookups, you can create a brand new lookup. I think most of you know how to do this, but I'll be demonstrating in a minute. You can create a brand new lookup, but what you may or may not know is that lookup is immediately available to be bulk updated, and then that information that you have in the lookup, you can immediately search on it in about 5 or 6 different places. You can add it to an application form, you can add it to reports and all kinds of stuff. So it's a very, very flexible way of adding new. I mean, one example was somebody was working on a Chinese New Year campaign and they wanted to look up to say, do you speak Chinese? Do you speak Mandarin? And they added the lookup, they added it to the staff portal, the staff search, a report, and I don't think they bothered on that instance adding it to their application form. We had another instance where during the pandemic, many of you will have pivoted your business from what you were doing, the business for which had died, to something new, the business for which was growing, perhaps medical or supermarkets or anything to do with food is a good example, security. And so you may have had to create a brand new application form with brand new fields to ask things of people. So very, very important to be able to do those effectively. And hopefully when you ask us for help, we're able to do those things. So now I'm going to be giving a demo, because as you know, I like to try and keep these things as 80% demo minimum, maybe 90%. And I'm going to be talking about setting up users, the very important matter of retiring users. And obviously in between that, there's people who have disabled themselves by putting in more password attempts than you as a company have stipulated you're prepared to accept. And I'm going to be looking at some of the detail of granting and revoking rights. And then because it's such a large subject, I'm going to point you to the help text in there where you can get a lot more information. So let's start first of all with with 3 or 4 examples, and then I'm going to be going through these live. So the first one is a field staff example. The idea is kind of don't mess about with this. If somebody has applied through the application form and you've promoted them to staff, they will get this. They will get an email, an automated email, which will give them their username and password, unless you've customized your staff journey. It's all really simple. They log on to this staffing app and they can, if you allow them, choose works, show an interest in work, or they can see what work you've allocated them. They can update their details. They can do all the hundreds of things that they can do on the staffing app, prove they've attended using geolocation and so on. The other thing is, so don't mess around with it unless you've launched your staff app, but you haven't yet launched payroll, in which case you can use these 2 features down here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, hopefully you can, but you can use this to decide which users can see payroll. The other one, event nominated user, is a feature that we built for a company many years ago where they wanted to create team leaders who could manage other staff. and it's really kind of a team leader tick box. I think we were demonstrating it with this user Alice Fiera, who doesn't exist, but at least I don't think she exists. I think she's a demo person, and we just added it to show somebody how it worked. But if you ever do want to create team leaders of people to maybe in a geographical area or a large account, it's quite a good way to do that without them seeing the rest of the system. Now, if you compare that automatically created staff setup with a super user, then the super user clearly has lots more ticks. And I just wanted to point out that this super user here, this Adrian fella, he has the super user admin, which is this employee admin. And the reason this top tick box is so important is because somebody with this top tick box here, employee admin, can decide which of your company's employees gets rights. Now, there should be maybe a couple, maybe in a very large organization, 4 or even 6 in an absolutely huge organization, so that if one person's on holiday, somebody else can pick that up. But if you have, and in some companies we see that loads of people have ticked these boxes, 27 of them or 15 of them or even 8, then there's a problem. There should be the Accelerate support login, and there should be a couple of your super users and no more than that. This is a very serious problem that can cause fraud problems, GDPR problems, and so on. Somebody who has that employee admin tick box can give employee admin or finance admin or anything else, export to CSV, for example, all of these security critical authorities and rights to anybody else. And I suspect what's happened is some of the companies that have loads of people have somebody who's not been trained as a super user, who's been given super user access, and then they've just clicked it for everybody else because they had it. So they just clicked it, and so suddenly you end up with dozens of super users. But as a director of the company, you are responsible for GDPR. You're responsible for, and goodness knows if you're an owner manager, financial fraud is not a happy situation. So you need to make sure that your super user polices this stuff, because a large number of people do not need it. Even if you've got a finance admin, and just forget the red bar, I'll explain it in a moment. Even if you've got a finance admin, you don't need that many boxes ticked. They just need to have payroll admin, finance admin, sales finance admin. And if their job involves booking people as well, or maybe they need to search on staff so that they can find some details about them or their rights to work or something, they might need staff details perhaps, then they'll actually, I've got to be honest, a finance person would probably need to be able to view reports as well. But there's really not very many things that need to be ticked. And likewise, a booking admin person. So if I go now to the actual Smatchel form, I promised to tell you what this red thing was. If you give somebody text ability, then this comes down and says, don't forget, you also have to put their email name, in this case, Henrik Barbosa at accelerate.com, but it would be presumably one of your email names. You have to put their email name to authorize them and some security into your sms.accelerate.com text portal in order that that person is allowed to send texts. Because don't forget, if somebody does a search on 3,000 staff and sends 3,000 texts, each of 2 or 3 or 4 units each out, they've just created a liability on your company for 100 quid or so, 200 quid. And somebody, we've had organizations where somebody's just ticked every box for all of their new colleagues, and somebody has then not bothered to do a staff search, but just sent out texts to all staff, and that has caused them with a huge bill. And the next thing I know, I've got the FD for the company on the phone to be saying, why are we spending so much on text? And the answer is, well, this fella is writing to people for a Reading event. He's writing to people all over Europe to see if they want to hand out leaflets on Saturday for a Reading event. Sounds like his lack of planning rather than and utter stupidity, actually. So that's the SMS section, and I'll probably try to get, because we've had quite a few questions about SMSs because there's been staff turnover in a lot of companies, I'll try and slip in a training on the SMS portal if anybody would like that. Now, just here in the middle, you can see that you can decide on which dashboard somebody can have. So this person's got the finance dashboard, so that will show the profit and the loss, so you can see revenue coming in. You'll notice also they've got sales finance admin. In other words, they can see what you're charging the customers, because this finance person is creating invoices. If this person was only a payroll admin, you would probably do that. Then they can approve that somebody's turned up and they can submit payroll. And you'd probably give that to a booker, that payroll admin function. Payroll admin is not a job title, remember. These are rights that you have. Notice that says admin and that says admin. And the reason is that as a super user, you don't want it to say staff, because staff immediately takes you to the staff portal or the app. The call center, some of you use, some of you don't. That's to do with setting up tasks to remind yourself to do things. It's the bane of my life. Mine pops up every morning and tells me to do about 500 things I can't possibly do. I'm sure you have something similar at your place. These different groups here, so administration, staff members, obvious. That would you'll see on the previous screenshot, the staff members, and staff over here is when somebody gets the staff portal, when somebody's automatically promoted to staff. Business development is somebody who is in sales for you, and they can't see anything to do with staff or events. All they can see is, actually that's not true, some business development managers you can, but the idea of business development manager is that they are just outbound calling and mailing, and we're using the CRM to find customers and to progress business. They're not really bothered with booking staff, seeing applicants come through, and all of the secure stuff that your HR people should be able to see. So that's a really important, if you get audited for GDPR, which I hope you don't, and you're in danger of getting fined, then you need to be able to show that you're putting people in compartments so they can only see the information they need to do their job. And that's why these tick boxes are so important. A territory sales manager is somebody who can only see the accounts for whom they are an account manager. So if you have an account XYZ Washing Machines Limited, then you would have an account manager associated with that. And if it was Fred can see XYZ washing machines, but Alice, who might be the account manager for somebody else's Hoovers, would not be able to see, sorry, is Hoover a trade name? Somebody else's vacuum cleaners would not be able to see Fred's account. And we can set that up on your systems. It's quite rare in small experiential security field marketing companies, but it is very common in large industrial companies where they don't want the Italian sales manager to see the British sales manager's work, or the guy who looks after these sales in this industry to see the accounts of somebody else in another industry. It's a very, very common requirement. So if I could, because I want to work to time today and we've got to just nip through lookups and drop downs admin, if I could show you this whizzy button here, just remove that. This button here takes you to a help desk file, which I really must format one day, but it's a great big interesting file full of what the dickens does that button do. And we constantly need to update it, but by and large the same tick boxes will be on here as on here, and it will explain exactly what they do, all of these bits and pieces. It explains some interesting things, like, for example, I don't have any data on here because it's an internal admin person, but when you do payroll, if you use our system for payroll, if you have a company name in there, then it'll put that person on the self-employed pile. And if you have a VAT number in there or any text in there, then it will create a bill for that. It'll expect invoices from that person to have tax on them. And as you know, we can create the staff subcontractor invoices for them, so they get all of the information to put on their invoice, and all they have to do is print it out on their headed stationery or email it to you, and it's created the invoice that you've already pre-approved that they can send you. And then there's a workflow for self-employed people so that their invoice can get processed by you, signed off, and it goes in the back run. If somebody is on PAYE, then all of these things should be blank. So if we take that staff person, who was a staff person? Was it Alice? I think Alice was a staff person, wherever she's gone. Alice, there she is. If you take a staff person again, and we select Alice, come on Alice, I thought she was a staff person, yes she is. There we go. So there's Alice. And as you can see, Alice is P-A-Y-E. Alice should have an email name actually. Just going to put or something. So, and don't forget, whenever you make a change, save. So that's the help desk for all the tick boxes. That's the difference between PAYE and self-employed and so on. The bank account names, the payroll number, visa expiry dates are all pretty obvious. I think we hardly ever get any questions about those. Each staff member user record will be associated with the contact record. This person doesn't have one at the moment, but they certainly would be in most cases. And most of the data hangs off a contact record, as you'll know. Now, if Alice is retired, then what we do is we retire her. And again, somebody doesn't need to have so for example, I've got employee admin, but if I was to ring in as if I was to log in as this person who has finance admin and doesn't have employee admin, then in the staff details screen, if I just go find that staff details screen here, where are we? There. So in the staff details screen here, if I pick the staff details guy that we've been working with, Johnny Tester. So if we take Johnny Tester here, you can see that I can click retire there. So I don't have to have, I only have to have the ability to see these employee details. I don't have to have the ability to have employee admin to do any of the functions for booking, HR, talent management, promoting people to staff or anything. They're all available from this screen here where you can see their qualifications and everything. You should not have to give very many people in your organization super user status, and there is a real risk to your company of doing that. This is a senior fine. This could be the CFO. They don't need to have super user status unless they train as a super user. A CFO is actually a very good person to be as a super user, or certainly some of the power users working for them in a larger organization. So going back to the live screen here, I can retire this person and I can also re-enable their account. So once they're retired, they can't log in. And that's what you do with people who have left your company. Again, you don't have to have this access to this super user screen. I could as easily have done it from this screen here for Alice. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about for user admin. You'll have loads more questions, and you may even have in your organization slightly different buttons to this, but hopefully this help text button here will explain things really clearly, and if not, call support. But it's really important to just have a certain number of users and not too many. One of the cool things about this report here is there's a couple of really useful reports in amongst it. One of them is this report, and it shows you all of the people. So this is a typical naughty company. So because we use this system for demos and training, you'll see some names, some of which actually may be familiar to you. You will see some names in here who have account admin. Now, this is a bad picture. If you've got this number of green ticks with user admin in your organization, you've got a problem. You should really have basically administrator, which is the admin support account, and maybe 2 of these with super user status. You should not have, like here, dozens and dozens. So if your screen looks like this demo system where there's no valuable information, and you're very welcome if you come on a call with us to play around with it if you want to as a training system, then there's a problem with security. So we need to stay away from that. Okay, so now let's go on to the next 2 subjects before we get on to this, which is lookups admin, which I'm just going to bring up very quickly, and drop-downs admin. So if I just zip back to the main system here, how are we doing? 12:26. So I'm just going to do, if you're okay with the time for this, I'm going to do just 5 minutes on each one, because we'll spend a little bit more time on them, and we've already spent a lot of time on them already. To get to most admin functions, you go to this system here. Now, because the only people that get this admin user are super users, we're assuming that they're technical business people, and we've never really tarted it up. But just recently, we've really made these screens a lot prettier. But for now, I'm going to deal with the screens that you are working with on your system. So you've got the user admin menu, and you've also got down here labels admin, which I'm going to deal with at another time. Drop-downs admin, I can't remember which order I put them on the agenda, but let's go to drop-downs admin first. This allows you to change the drop-down values in your menus. So there are hundreds and hundreds of different options and combinations of options. We did expenses, I think, to death. I think we did role admin when we did the whole area of booking. But just to remind you, the different roles have different payment amounts, and they can be daily amounts and hourly amounts. And likewise, when you charge them out, you can calculate them at a client daily rate or at a client hourly rate. So it can create your invoices. And it can also, if you've put in some VAT codes, it can do that. And if you've put in some nominal codes, you can put those on so they come up as standard as well for these. I don't think, so I put VAT codes in some of these, and I don't know, I've only put a nominal code in one, but if I wanted to put a nominal code into the team leader, then it would probably be something like that and that if I was using Sage, and that would be my VAT code. And then I've got a model, so I don't have to type all that stuff in every time I create. Can't remember if I hit save, but you can have multiple currencies. Qualifications is one that's always of interest to people. The idea here is that you can create qualifications so that you can pick them from a list rather than create them every time. And I just wanted to show you two more, because I think these are all self-explanatory if you know how the system works. Contact status and job application status. Now, job application status, this is where, and I do urge you to attach a color to them, so when they come up in reports like the staff search, we just search for everybody beginning with A to keep it simple. You can see the job application status comes up with colors here, and that those colors are the same colors as these. So because these people are registered, they come up in gray. And if there was anybody red here, I don't know if there's anybody red. No, not many people beginning with A. But if there were any people retired or rejected, they would come up in red. But you can decide on the colors. So this one here is a blue on a white background, and that looks like contact created, and indeed it's contact created. So that's how job application status works. Now, the idea of job application status is it's supposed to be the applicant journey. So somebody creates a contact account when they first start the form with you, the application form. Then when they apply, they're in applied or pending or whatever you call that list. You can decide on those. They might then be manually changed by your staff to be something like invited to interview, and then they passed interview or rejected. All of these things are clearly job application status. Then they're promoted to staff or registered or whatever you call them, staff bank, staff pool. And then after that, they're either a good leaver or they're a bad leaver. Now, if they're a good leaver or they're going on sabbatical, you might use the politically correct term would re-employ. You can see here somebody, I think I saw somebody traveling. Again, that implies that you would re-employ them. But obviously, you need to protect your company against absolute scallywags that you have got rid of because they never turned up on time or they did something appalling or whatever. And so you would have a job application status would not re-employ. That is very, very different to the status of the contact, which is, are they experienced? Are they new? Are they really good? Are they up for being a team leader or whatever? So very, very different from the gradings that you give people. So make sure that your staff and your business processes make the best use of both of those. And obviously those are both searchable on here. So drop-downs admin, all pretty obvious, except obviously some are not relevant to your business. You might not hand out samples, you might not need sample statuses. You might not use assets. If you use check-in, check-out with accelerate checkpoints, or if you have cards which you give to people to swipe through, you need to be able to retire those cards if they lose them. You need to keep a check on assets, and if they're electrical assets, you need some asset conditions. So if you hand out, I don't know, iPads to people, or screens and microphones and things for exhibition stands, then you need to be able to check which ones are in good condition and which ones are not in good condition when they come back, so you don't try and reallocate ones that don't work to an exhibition. Extra charge is an interesting one. I don't know if many people use this, but when somebody does a good job or a bad job, you can add, there's none in here, but you can add things like forgot tie is a classic one. And you can say that is, I think one of our customers charges are £5. They give you a new tie and they charge you £5. Another one, whoops, save. Why isn't that disabled? Naught is active, description, new, save. I'm not sure why that's not gone on the list. I probably have to, oh, there it goes, there we go. So the next one might be something like forgot, wrong shoes. So this would be for security guards or stewards or something, and that might be, I don't know, sent home, or 25 quid to lend you some or something like that. So these would be things which come off. What have I lost? There we go, and save that new one. So basically you can create those, and then you can add those into payroll, so that when you do the payroll, which I can just show you very quickly here, chopper chips, let's just pick this bloke here, go to payroll. So now those are available. Oh, there's nobody booked on it, what a shame. But if there was somebody booked on it, in the extras and adjustments here, you can double click and say he forgot his shoes, or he forgot his tie, or he turned up late, or whatever. So quite useful, and they're itemized on the payroll as well. So you'll notice that when you add things to the job application status drop down, they come in here. When you add things to status drop down, they come in here. If you we move on to lookups now, and one of the main lookups is this experience lookup that everybody has in their staff search. So if we go to lookups admin now, I'll just spend 5 minutes on that. Lookups admin is blindingly simple. It is merely the fields, and a very, very powerful tool for you to use as a super user to improve the lot of your colleagues and the whole business. So it could be, for example, that you want to flag people for deletion for GDPR, or you want to find out if people speak Chinese. These are extra fields that you may not have thought of before, respectively, last Chinese New Year, when you got, 3 weeks beforehand, you got a great contract to do some marketing, or before, I don't know, March or May or whatever it was, 25th, 2018, when GDPR came in, or whatever. So it could be that all the time your business changes and you need to create a bit more information about a person or an organization. Typically in organizations, it would be things like, what are the payment names, what payment terms for that organization? What kind of business are they in? Are they in this business? Are they a consumer product or a retail warehouse or whatever? So going on to these lookups, you'll be familiar with most of these because you'll have most of these in your system. So, for example, have you worked airside at an airport? That would be a typical thing that you'd want to put into an application form if you're working, if you have airside staff in counter cover, for example. Where have I gone? There we go. Other ones here, do you have your own vehicle? Do you have an unspent criminal record? Do you have the right to work in my country or whatever? And for each of these, when you either create them or evaluate them, you'll see they're linked to a contact or a company or a site or an asset. So that's simple enough. And then you can decide on the type of answer that you want. So when you go into Application Form Builder, let's just go and get Application Form Builder out to show you how that works. There we go. So if I go into Application Form Builder here, then those are immediately available, all of those lookups. So if I pick any application form, this one's a catering form, and I wanted to go to this page here, About You, and I want to add a question, then you'll see lookups in there. And I can't remember which lookup we were looking at, but basically if I go down to wherever that question's gone, then I can see just down here that that lookup will include all sorts of things like, I can't remember, have you worked in any airside airport or whatever? So you can see that that's immediately available there. In reports admin, if I go to, let's just take a simple example of if I skip the wizard and just go straight to configuring a report for org sites contacts, then I can immediately see in the contact profile information, I can find all of those lookups. So once people start filling them in on their portal or the application form or anywhere, I can immediately put them into, there we are, contact profiles. So all of those lookups, including have you worked airside before and all of those things, they're immediately available. Just looking around for have you worked airside somewhere around here. Have you airside experience? Do you have a hygiene? Somewhere around here there's the airside. Sometimes there's so many fields that was it airside? There we are. Have you worked airside in any airport? Sometimes there are so many fields that Control F is your friend. You can see I've just Control F to find it here. So very, very useful to be able to add those. One last lookup to show you. It's typically lookup 72, and it's the one that is in the staff search here, this experience one. This is also on the portal automatically, this experience one here. So if we look at HIJK, here we are, what's this called? Experience, and it should be called experience here. If we look at 72, I just want to introduce you to the concept of valid values. How are we doing for time? 12:38. 3 more minutes to go. So valid values, those values are valid values. So if I was to put in banana juggler here as a new option here, juggling, just here, and I add that to my list, move it around to where I want it to be, then back over here in the staff search, that will be added to the valid values. So there's no banana juggling there now, but if I just refresh that page, you can see now somewhere around I've got banana juggling just there. And if I search on anybody, clearly there is nobody with banana juggling, but banana juggling will already have turned up as a possible value in the application forms where the experience is asked for, and also in the staff portal where it's asked for. So if I was to log into that guy Johnny Tester and tick, yeah, I've got some banana, I went to Banana University juggling, and they will show up on the search as the one person that does banana juggling. So immediately those lookups are done, they are available. Now, when we go to, I think it's either tomorrow or Monday, we're going to be looking at this other area of lookups, which is visible lookups. This is where you can say what order, come along, what order they occur in, and also what tab they occur in. So if I go to visible lookups here, you can also add it to screens by ticking boxes here. So for example, country of birth comes into the rights to work tab. Now in this demo system, we haven't put any order. But if I was to put 10, and remember, I always advise, I'm always drone on about this, but always put 10 between your orders so that if you want to slip one in the middle, you just put 15 if I wanted to put something in the middle of there. You should be able to search on the lookup that you want. So for example, bank sort code looks like it goes on the new starter form for this particular demo company that we have, but it could go in your banking details tab if you wanted to. And the tabs that I'm referring to, if we look at any person, so let's look at this guy here, the famous Mr. Barbosa, then if we look at his lookups, these are the tabs that I'm referring to. So this is the new starter form, and because I have changed bank account name and stuff and tax code, I can't remember what they were, but there are 2 of these that I changed to reorder them. I think I saved them. Then in that new starter form, these pieces of data will be in the order in which I put them in the lookups admin. So that's how to create new lookups, how to add information to lookups, how to add valid values to them. And don't forget, they're clever little devils. You can then find them in reports. You can bulk update them. I don't know if everybody knows how to bulk update lookups, but there's ways. So for example, if you created a lookup for t-shirt size and some were 44, 42, 33, and some of the t-shirt sizes you imported from a database of your staff from your old system were small, large, and medium, you can decide which is going to be your standard way of measuring t-shirt sizes and set up your valid values as, let's say, small, large, medium, and extra large. And then you can bulk update all the 44s to be extra large and all the 22 chests to be small or whatever. So, so very, very easy to put in valid values and very, very easy to bulk update them, report upon them, add them to application forms and so on. Very, very sophisticated. So a lot of power that you have as a super user to help your company become more effective. So that's lookups admin today. And we've also done, where's my agenda? We've also done drop-downs admin. And remember, a lot of drop-downs admin we've already done and we're still to do when we do expenses and so on. So, and we've looked at why you're so important as a super user to your company. Don't forget to ask for a pay rise from your boss. The stuff tomorrow we're going to do is document template admin. So you're probably familiar with Newsletter Builder from the Newsletter Builder course, but what a lot of people don't know is the power of document template admin. You can create a document and you can create fields within that document which will mail merge into it. So it's especially good for doing things like client quotes or invoices, or especially working contracts where you have to create a document which has the name of the person concerned, their address, the job title, and all of the specific things that you've agreed in their contract, and it mail merges specifically for them and specifically for the job role, or the it's got all their bank information and maybe all the lookups information that they've said they agree, their passport number, they said, and you get them to sign that off, proof of ID and so on. We're going to be looking at import admin as well. Now that is a dry subject. Most of import admin is described in some import admin instructions, which I will put a link on for the invitation tomorrow. And we're going to be looking at the misnomer product admin. The idea of product admin is it's to be able to create lookups tabs and to decide which types of staff get which types of lookups and which types of companies get which types of lookups. I'm going to skirt over it pretty quickly just to show you that it exists. And then if you've got a specific requirement, then I think the best idea is to call support. It's one of those infrequent jobs like changing terms and conditions, where if you do want to change them, you'll probably do it once forever, or you might do it once every year or something like that. And then the third one for system super user admin is the knowledge base labels admin and taking a look at the audit trail. And we'll probably also do a little bit more on drop downs and on lookups admin as well, because we've really skirted over it. Obviously, in expenses admin, we'll be doing all of the expenses admin, VAT, nominal codes and stuff that I just raised the kimono on today. And then we'll go on to mass change, the last one on the 29th of September. Thank you very much indeed for your time, guys.